Anyone who has experience with Minolta lenses from back in the filmed SLR days already knows about how amazing these pieces of glass are. But for people like me and for others of you who are new to Minolta manual lenses, or who may be looking for a system of manual lenses to adapt to their mirrorless cameras, Minolta lenses represent amazing value for money. One thing that we have to establish right off the bat is that Minolta lenses should not be called MC lenses or MD lenses. Minolta lenses should be called SR lenses, because the SR bayonet mount, well, that's the name of the mount, SR. Minolta lenses, these manual focus lenses, were originally made for Minolta's SR line of film SLRs. For example, the SRT-202 that we see down here. Unfortunately, there's a tendency to call these lenses MC lenses or MD lenses. Both MC and MD refer to the same mount, the SR mount. One of the advantages of the SR mount is how easy it is to adapt to mirrorless systems. With just a simple $20 adapter, you can adapt these lenses to your Fuji, Sony, Nikon, Canon system. Whatever system you may be using, it's easy to find cheap adapters. The adapters look more or less like this. Here you can see Minolta, they've called it MD, should be SR, but everyone just calls it MD or MC, so we're going to have to roll with it. MD to Fuji X adapter. I have had a lot of success with these K and F concept adapters. I know there are cheaper adapters out there, but I like the quality of these guys, and they haven't let me down so far. In case you're new to adapting these manual focus lenses to mirrorless, it is a piece of cake. Here I'm going to demonstrate how we do that with my Nikon camera. First, we attach the lens to the adapter, line up the dots, and it clicks into place. Then we attach it as we would attach a regular lens to this Nikon camera. Locks into place. Turn the camera on. And guys, with focus peaking, it almost feels like cheating, because as we rotate the focusing ring here, you can see areas that are in focus will be highlighted. It's very faint, but if you guys can see the focus peaking, you'll see the areas in focus are highlighted. So all you do is you adjust the aperture using this ring here, and once you're focused, you shoot and you are good to go. Now on Nikon, it's useful to go into the menus and actually select non-CPU lens data for every different manual focus lens you're adapting. Choose a lens number to save the information. Choose the focal length that's closest to the focal length of the lens and the maximum aperture of the lens. So this lens is actually a 55mm 1.7, so I've selected 55 1.8 to be the closest equivalent. Don't be intimidated if you've never used manual focus lenses. It is a piece of cake, okay, and the results are worth it, especially for the money. I would say the main reason you would shoot with Minolta lenses, aside from the fact that they are affordable, because they don't quite get the same level of hype as M42 lenses get, for example, or the manual focus Zeiss lenses. The main reasons to shoot these lenses are the build quality of these lenses. They just feel amazing in the hand, especially the older MC line of lenses. And we'll talk about the difference between these generations of lenses in just a bit. So the build quality is there. The bokeh or out of focus areas are very pleasing. Minolta optical engineers were some of the best in the business, and they had anticipated the importance of pleasing bokeh early on. And so these lenses are actually a lot of fun to use for portraiture work or for subject isolation to get those nice creamy backgrounds if you are into that kind of thing. So we have a bunch of lenses on the table here. Let's just clear the field and let's talk about the different generations. And as we talk about each lens, I will be showing examples of photos that I have taken with that lens. If you're going to only take away one thing from this video, is that anytime you see MC, that refers to an older generation of Minolta lens than when you see MD. MC does not stand for multi-coated, it stands for meter coupled, and these were the earlier generations of lenses. Now, over time, as Minolta continued to refine the optical formula and most importantly, the lens coatings, the optical quality did tend to improve over time. However, it's not so clear-cut. It's not, for example, a universal law that just because a lens has MD written, that it's necessarily better than an MC lens. And in fact, some people prefer buying these MC lenses, not only for the way they look, right? Some of them just look pretty sexy, but the build quality is nicer on them. And the bokeh, sometimes you get a lot more interesting rendering from these MC lenses than you do on the MD. The oldest generation that we're going to cover is called the early MC among Minolta lens collectors. This one, you'll notice right away there's something wrong with it. The filter thread has been damaged. It looks like this lens has taken a hit. And actually this specific one, okay, I actually got for $5 because the aperture is stuck wide open. It does not close down past what looks like f1.9 or f2. This is a 1.7 lens with oily aperture blades. Now apparently this generation of lenses is very easy to repair, but I actually noticed something special. When shot wide open, this is a lens that you want to shoot wide open, because when shot wide open, you put about 6 feet between you and your subject, and you have a nice pleasing background. You can get some really nice portrait style shots. So this might be the best use of $5 in my photographic journey. You can quickly identify this generation of Minolta lenses by the silver aperture ring here and the knurled focusing ring here. So when people talk about H and V, they're talking about hills and valleys. Hills, valleys, hills, valleys. So the early MC generation has this very distinctive look. Now this is not the first generation of Minolta lenses. Before the meter coupled lenses, we had the pre-MC lenses, but for practical purposes, I would start with this generation. Jumping ahead to the late MC generation, these were released from 1973 to 1976. The silver aperture ring went away, the aperture ring is now black, and the knurled focusing ring just became a rubberized ring here. This particular lens is a 50mm f3.5 macro lens, and it's actually a very famous lens in Minolta's lineup. It offers great value. With the 1-to-1 adapter, this becomes a 1-to-1 lens. I don't have the 1-to-1 adapter for this particular lens. Nevertheless, I was able to get really great results. Everyone deserves to own a macro lens, even Fuji shooters. Okay, so highly recommend shooting with a macro if you haven't done so already. Orange letters on this lens, Rockor X. Now, X simply refers to the North American market. So if the lens was not made for the US or Canada, it would just be called Rockor. There is no difference between Rockor and Rockor X. It's just a naming convention. And Rockor is kind of like Nikkor. It's just a name that Minolta chose for their lenses. There are sub-generations within these generations. I just decided to break it down into 4 generations for the sake of sanity. But there are websites that explain all the various different sub-generations and the changes between them. Now we get into what's called the early MD series. These were made from 1977 to 1980. This particular lens is one of my favorites. It's a tele lens, a tele Rockor 135mm f2.8. This is a really fast telephoto that competes toe-to-toe with some of the famous telephotos from back in the day, including the Pentagon 2.8. This is nice because it also features an integrated lens hood. We have no idea how the pyramids were built, and we have no idea how these integrated hoods were designed, because apparently they're impossible to include on modern lenses. I wish more modern lenses included this kind of hood, because I'm always forgetting my lens hood at home. Just like the Macro 3.5, this is a very sharp lens. Finally, we have the late MD generation, also called the new MD by Minolta lens collectors. This particular one is a very famous lens, the 100mm macro, and it's a bit of a chunky lens because I have here combined it with the 1-to-1 adapter. If you remove the adapter, it's a lot more manageable in terms of size. The optics of this lens are legendary, and I think it has practical use even today, even in professional settings, because this is a very high quality performer. The way to tell new MD lenses from early MD lenses is that new MD lenses will not have the words Rockor anywhere on them. They will just say MD. Now over time, Minolta saved money on construction, so the build quality as we move through the generations goes down. Meanwhile, the optical quality trends up and the quality of the lens coatings goes up over time. So it's a trade-off of build quality versus optical quality. For some people, the best bang for the buck is with the late MC lenses because they still give you improved optical quality and they're very cheap. And the new MD lenses are considered the pinnacle. Nevertheless, you can use the same exact adapter to adapt any generation of Minolta lenses. If If you're looking for the best deals to get started with Minolta manual focus lenses, just search for Minolta camera on eBay. Often, the camera plus the lens is cheaper than the lens itself because people just sell whatever they find in their basement, and sometimes you can find ridiculous deals on amazing prime lenses attached to these older cameras. Anything like the SRT 101, 102, 201, 202, you might get lucky. And you know what? These cameras are actually a real joy to use if you're into film photography, so it could be the start of a film photography journey as well. Who in the world could possibly have the time to go through the lenses, the specifications of almost 300 lenses, to read reviews and identify the ones that are offering the best value for money? Well, this is my gift to you guys. This document actually took quite some time to put together, but I have narrowed down the almost 300 different Minolta lenses into around 30. This is the same cheat sheet that I use when I need to buy a new Minolta lens. And I have put a little star next to the ones that I think represent great value for money for your first adapted mirrorless Minolta lens. You'll notice that most of these lenses are available in either 49 or 55 millimeter filter threads. So you can just stick to one filter thread size and buy 2 or 3 primes that you're interested in, and then you can just use the same filter for all of them. This is especially fun for video shooters who may want to go for that vintage manual look with just one set of ND filters, for example. Are they going to be as sharp as modern prime lenses? No, they're not. But they're going to give you focal lengths which you might not have in your arsenal. They might give you a unique look, some unique rendering or bokeh that you simply won't have access to unless you spend a ton of money on some modern glass. If you have any questions about Minolta lenses, let's talk it out. There is no way for me to tell you everything about Minolta lenses. There's a wealth of information on the internet out there, and I will link to some useful sites in the description. The build quality, the bokeh, the price to performance ratio make Minolta lenses an absolute joy to use, especially when adapted to modern mirrorless systems. I hope you found this video useful. As always, thank you for watching, and subscribe for more.